Hello and welcome. You are listening to The Lie, Lama Podcast. I'm Gunjan.
I'm Rajiv.
I faintly remember somewhere 2012, 2013. I don't remember the year. Ustad Zakir Hussain, he came to Peoria, and one of the Indian families, they hosted his dinner. This son, he was around 5 years old, and he reached out to Ustad Zakir Hussain, chota muh badi baat, and he said that, I learned tabla. Reply of this maestro was, oh, you know what? Even I'm learning tabla. Such great personality. Like we have seen him, I was very young, and we have seen him in Taj Ad and then those morning shows with his dad. Such great personality who has achieved almost everything and still says that he is learning tabla. He's also
And
learning
growing.
tabla. Was great thing, and this is what we want to ponder today, that growth mindset. When is it that we have achieved that height and ab mujhe sab mil gaya? And
Yeah,
how
before
do
we continue, I think it will help the listeners to understand Peoria is the place where he used to live near Chicago, US.
Yes.
So yeah, that actually is a very interesting, and this is more of humility and also, you're right, growth mindset, because psychologically they talk about two different kind of mindsets. One is fixed mindset and one is growth mindset. Growth you already mentioned, right? Somebody who is always looking at constant learning, constant growing, and fixed mindset is something a person, when we decide that, hey, this is what I'm fixed, or something is fixed, whether it is money, opportunity, talent, intelligence, anything. So there's another concept related to it, which I think may explain better, is the zero-sum game. Not exactly the same, but the fixed mindset is equivalent to zero-sum game, that something is fixed, and to do something, you have to take away something else.
Right.
So that means the pie is fixed, or my talent is fixed, and my intelligence is fixed, my everything is fixed. There's nothing that can grow beyond that. And growth is obviously.
There's one more very important element that I want to bring. People say time is fixed. And yes, I remember you have written this in Rise as well about time management, that we all have 24 hours in a day. It's more of a time management if you talk about growth mindset. And Rajiv, can you give us a little more context of time management? Like, how can one do that? That everybody says that I have just 24 hours in a day. How can I do everything?
Yeah, that is a very interesting thing you brought up. I had not thought about it. Yes, that's exactly what I was saying in that chapter in the book, and I've used that even earlier also. That
Right.
Everybody has, right from, let's say, Elon Musk today, the richest man on the earth, versus the poorest man on the earth.
Right.
They both have 24 hours per day.
Right.
Now, if you go back when Elon was not Mr. Elon Musk, how was he spending his 24 hours, and how is everybody else spending 24 hours? So one of the things that people often ask me, when do you get time to write? Or you may not have enough things to do, you get time to write. And usually I answer the question by another question that, which particular Netflix series are you watching these days? What happens is that when they say, oh, I binge watched whatever the latest series, they say, I have no clue about that story or that show or anything. So I spend my time on things that I think would give me growth. Not always. You also enjoy. It's not that you have to take away your enjoyment, but if you enjoy what you're doing, then you are getting both at the same time. Versus you watch 4 hours of something and then you start cursing yourself, oh, I shouldn't have wasted my time.
And there's one more thing, right? If you have less work and 8 hours, that work will be done in 8 hours. If you have more work, 8 hours, that work will be done in 8 hours. And my Dadaji used to say this very interesting thing that, and I'll say this in Hindi, I'll quote unquote him, गधा होता है ना गधा, जब तक उसे ला दो ना वो काम नहीं कर पाता, तो प्लीज गधे मत बनो. be that intelligent person. And it so resonates when you have very little work. It's somehow your day stretches to 10 hours. Okay, after cup of tea, okay, after this, after that, you just procrastinate that work, and
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this was just such less work and ad hoc basis that you have to take care of. Otherwise, you would have put it on a back burner. But somehow I feel when there is less work, 8 hours, that works get done in 8 hours. When there is more work, and nowhere we can sacrifice the quality. That's one thing that we have to assure, that we are giving the quality product. But yes, that this story resonates a lot, that when you have gadha and workload is directly proportionate.
Yeah, essentially, work stretches to the time you have.
Right.
Always. Anything you have to do. It's not just work like office work. Even at home, if you have to clean the house, you may go into a room and do something, come back after 5 minutes, you lounge around, check your social media, then go back to another room. So essentially, what you could have done in one stretch in maybe half an hour, you will take 2 hours to do it.
No, Rajiv, that's a different problem altogether. Even when I'm walking towards the fridge, I'll open the fridge and I'll forget what I was doing. When we had those landline days, phone will ring,
that's old age.
I will be walking towards the phone, and then if that phone will stop, I'll be like, why am I here again? What was I supposed to do? So I found a very brilliant technique of...
No, we are not talking about old age here.
So I was saying that that's not the problem.
Mindset.
Yeah, it's we are forgetful people and we forget what we were doing. So yes.
No, we are so preoccupied with so many things. When you're walking toward the fridge, you're thinking about 10 different things.
Right.
So by the time you reach the fridge, you've forgotten. And it happens with everybody. I sometimes you open the email to write an email and you suddenly forget, what was you going to talk, what was the email about. And it goes back to focus, the mindsets, how you want to actually spend your time, where you want to spend your energy. If you think you only have fixed amount of energy, then you will have to allocate it. And then allocation is exactly what you talk about, whether you want to allocate it towards growth or whether you want to allocate towards, there was a very interesting concept I read about many years ago, but then I recently heard it again in one of the podcasts called Drama Triangle.
Oh, yes. That needs complete one episode, Drama Triangle. But yes, we touched the surface here. I highly recommend if we can have a guest so that we can have another view. But Rajiv, please touch the base. Give us a little insight about Drama Triangle.
Yeah. Yes. People can, do Google search or whatever, internet search on it and find out. But the key concept is that, we fall into this trap of drama, that we are either blaming ourselves for something, we always play that victim mentality, or we play the persecutor mentality, that we are judging, ourselves or others, or, we are always, doing like rescuer mentality, that, hey, let me rescue you or myself. So, and it's a very interesting concept.
I think we should call Ekta Kapoor. That's the recipe of all her shows, is what you're talking about.
Drama Triangle, yes. Every family, it happens a lot. This was actually based on office. In the corporate office, how people fall into that, and which actually stops their growth. And they talk about how it actually helps or actually gravitates people towards the fixed mindset.
Since we are talking about office and fixed mindset, question here is, do you believe that intelligence and talents are fixed traits, or do you see them as qualities and it can be developed through effort and learning?
Yes, I personally think that everything is dependent on your personal mindset. Think about ourselves. We didn't know about this podcast like maybe about 2 years ago. When we started discussing, we kept reading, we brainstorm ideas, hey, this is what we can do. So we learned a lot, and then we said, okay, we are now ready to launch or do this podcast.
I was never ready.
So essentially, yeah, but I forced it, but that's fine.
Right.
The main thing is that there is a time when you have to take that leap of faith. This obviously you can. There's no end to trying to being perfect, which you can never be
achieve. Yes.
But the difference becomes that On one hand, somebody can say, oh, all the stars have to be aligned before I do this. Everything has to be like perfect. That the day you launch, you have 1 million followers. So that is a very, I would say, fixed mindset. People like those are creating an unsurmountable barrier for themselves to do anything. And then they will play that drama triangle of, victim card that, the reason I cannot launch is because there's not enough audience, or there's this or this and that, or people don't understand, or I don't know how I will sound, how I will look. So 10,000 excuses of not doing something, right? So everything you have to experiment, and 90% experiments will fail, but 10% may succeed, or 99 may fail and 1 will succeed. That's fine. And that's the difference between fixed versus growth mindset.
Accepting the failures and take the charge of your own destiny. Don't go with the flow. Be the flow.
Be the flow, yes. So that is, in some cases, that's exactly what growth mindset is. That, if you think that intelligence is fixed, then you will immediately stop growing. If you think your talents are fixed.
How can we balance the pursuit of excellence with the acceptance of growth that often involves making mistakes and learning from them? How do we embrace this?
You tell me.
Well, that's a continuous learning. That is what it is all about. But somehow you have that fear that, am I going in the right direction? Am I learning the correct skill set that is required? Maybe this is redundant.
But how would you know?
That's exactly my point. How would
no, actually, let me repeat the question. How does it matter? We can never predict the future. We can only prepare for it. So let's say that today you think your job, career, industry, or whatever is going in a certain direction, and you need the certain skills. You want to start learning those skills with that, right intention. You are actually heading in the direction based on what you think the probability of the future is. And suddenly artificial intelligence comes in, and all of those things, the things that you were aiming about and all that, disappear. Poof. When you have started marching towards a destination, you will not know ahead of time where you will face roadblocks, what kind of roadblocks. And that's exactly comes back to fixed versus growth mindset. A person with a growth mindset will say, hey, I am going to march in this direction because it is going to help me grow. And I will reapply my skills if, let's say, I cannot apply it in the place where I want to go. And actually, as I was saying this, I remembered one of the interview I gave where this person asked me something very similar. And at that time, my response was that, look at the river. Do you think that the river, when it starts from the glacier with the aim of going to the ocean, has carved out its path? No. The path gets carved out as the river flows. It reaches a big rock, it will work around it. It reaches a ditch, it will fill itself and then still keep flowing. That is the growth mindset versus being a pond. एक तालाब और एक नदी का difference. Fixed versus growth mindset, in my opinion.
Right. And yes, yes, Rajiv, the difference between pond and the river, that pond will look up to someone, that someone will come and clean and restore. On the contrary, river will just keep on flowing and swish the garbage at the corners and keep itself clean. And
when there is too much of garbage, it will flow with the garbage. When the garbage settles, it will flow clean. But it will not stop. It will not pause and start blaming somebody or expecting somebody else to be the rescuer. So essentially, a river will never play the victim mentality. It will never have a fixed mindset. While a pond has a fixed mindset, expecting somebody, it will always be in a victim mentality or mindset, and will expect somebody else to come and clean it up. And that goes to an individual, that goes to a nation, that goes to a society, that it is true from an individual to a nation.
And people see stagnant thing and they start dumping or offloading things. So that's another problem. And
trash will attract trash. One of the and no, actually, this is a very interesting psychological experiment that was done. I read about it, many decades ago, that they noticed that if there is trash lying on the side of the street, people will tend to throw more trash at it.
True.
If the street is clean, people will not trash it. So essentially, a trash will attract trash and cleanliness will attract cleanliness. Same thing, a growth mindset will attract growth mindset. A fixed mindset will attract fixed mindset.
Yes, Rajiv, very well said that river has that power of embracing the belief system. It believes its own potential for growth and development. A growth mindset isn't a concept, it's a practical approach to life and can lead to greater learning, resilience, and achievement. Over to you, Rajiv.
The victim mentality, we talked about it, the blame game or the drama triangle. I had this couplet which actually captures the similar sentiment, the victim mentality. कांटों को ये शिकायत है कि लोग फूलों से ज्यादा मोहब्बत करते हैं.
That is very, very deep. But thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.